Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over a few more Excel topics, and that includes sparklines, charts, and graphs. So these are all different types of visualizations that we use, and I like to use these a whole lot, especially with my client spreadsheets, just because it's a little bit harder to see data sometimes and actually get a good feel for what's going on. So a good way to represent that data is by using some of these visualizations. So let's jump right into that. Okay, so here's an example dashboard that I like to show to a lot of my newer clients just to show them what's possible with Excel. We can do a lot of different things with these charts, and this is showing coffee sale performance, but we could do anything with this. If you're a realtor, it could be showing the houses you've sold per zip code. If you're a landscaper, maybe the mileage that you've driven per month, anything like that really, just to get a good idea of what's actually going on. So what we have here, like I said, this is coffee sales, but we have multiple different charts here. This is the sales per store. So we've got Target, Walmart, Costco, and some other stores here. And it's showing us, so this is a combination chart. It's showing us the dark roast, the espresso in red, the light roast in blue, and the medium roast in green. And this is just giving us a visual representation of how much of each roast was sold to each one of the stores here. We have another chart here that's just another bar chart, but it's showing us the quantity sold by roast, and this is quantity as in dollar amounts. So we have the dark roast, the medium roast, the espresso, and the light roast, and then up here also the quantity sold by customer. So over here we had the revenue per customer, and here we have the quantity of each roast sold by customer. And this is jump a little bit ahead, but I did use pivot tables to make these charts and get all of this arranged here. And we also have some sliders here just to show you, some potential of what you can do with these charts. Let's say we only want to see the espresso. We can come here, click into the espresso slider, and then it'll change up everything to just show us espresso. So you can see just the revenue per espresso in each one of the different stores, as well as how much espresso was sold to each store here, and then the actual dollar amount. And see, whenever we hover over it, it tells us the dollar amount too that we sold. So that was just a little peek into what you can actually do with some of these things. And by manipulating the data using these sliders, you can really get a feel for what's actually going on in the business. So that coffee dashboard was a little bit more of an advanced layout, and what we're going to do is we're going to use some simpler data to show what we can do with some of this. So first off, we're going to start off with Sparklines. Sparklines is pretty useful for showing smaller, let's say smaller charts, rather than having a chart that takes up a decent amount of your screen. You can come here and let's say, all right, so we're looking at this data from 2018 to 2022, this income statement. And we can see the revenue here, and this is around 215K, 230-ish K, 265. And we can kind of look at this and see, okay, yeah, we're going up a little bit, up some more, down slightly here, and then up here. But we want to see something that gives us a visual representation rather than having to look at this. So Sparklines are really convenient, and all we really need to do is we can click here because this is where we want our Sparklines to be. And keep in mind that Sparklines are embedded within a cell, whereas charts and graphs, you can move them around to different places, take up large amounts of space, or you can shrink them down. But Sparklines are embedded inside cells. So let's come up to insert here, and then we see this under insert here, the Sparklines. So we'll click on line, and this little box pops up for us. It's asking us, okay, choose the data that we want. So our data is going to be our revenue across the years. So we'll highlight all of our data. And then it's also asking us for the location range. This is where we want the Sparkline to actually be at. So we have here, it's set up to be in J5 where we already had our selected cell. So we can click OK. And you can see that it populates this little line that gives us a good representation of what our data did here. And what we can do is we can click on that, drag that down, and it gives us, a good representation of everything now. So instead of just seeing our revenue, we can see what's happening across the years for each one of our categories here. So we can see that our net income here shot up slightly and then came back down a little bit, and that's probably due to our expenses dropping here and our expenses dropping here as well as our revenue going up. Our cost of revenue went up as well. But in either case, we can see easily that our net income did increase over the years. And there are some other things that we can do with Sparklines. We can customize these. You can go ahead and click on that, and then notice whenever you click inside of the Sparkline cell, it gives us another option here called Sparklines, and you can go ahead and choose different types of themes for your Sparkline. You can choose different colors. Let's say we want them all in red, and right now they're all grouped. We can ungroup these, so we can highlight them all, press ungroup, and then we can change each one individually if we wanted to, just to show different areas. So let's say we have our revenue. We want that one to be green, just because green is gold. That doesn't look great. That doesn't look great either. That's better. Okay, but yeah, it looks better with different color backgrounds and all that. But yeah, that's a good representation of Sparklines. There are other things that you can do as well. If we come here, we can click on markers. So that'll populate just a little. Let's zoom in a little bit. So that'll put the little markers for each data point that it's pulling from. So we have that. You can have the last point. You can have the first point. So if we take off our markers, it'll just show us the first and last points. We can also choose if we want our high point, and our low point, and it'll show us things like that as well. What we can also do is, instead of this line, we can have it show us different things like columns. So this way we have a column showing us, basically a smaller bar chart, visually showing us the different revenues per year. So that's a few things that we can do with Sparklines. Again, this is a very introductory course into how Sparklines and graphs and that sort of thing works. So just know that there are other ways that you can manipulate Sparklines as well as the columns and different things like that. So now that we've seen how Sparklines work, they're very condensed in terms of, compared to bigger charts and graphs. So now we actually get into charts and graphs in Excel. So what we're going to do is we can just click inside of our data source here, go up to insert again, and instead of picking these lines in Sparklines, we're going to go into the charts section here. And what we could do is we could just click on recommended charts. Now you see up here in this little box here, this is showing us that they're actually going to be using pivot tables instead of just populating a chart. But we can see that these pivot tables are already showing us some of the data that we're working with. So we have sum of revenue by roast, we have sum of cost by roast, sum of profit by roast, and I can click on one of these just to give you an idea of how this works. So this is basically a pivot table. We're going to get into these in a future lesson, but just know that they're really easy whenever you're wanting to aggregate data and make it really easy to see the different things that are going on with it. So we're going to delete that and come back to that in another lesson. But for the actual chart, so let's go back to insert, and we can click on, let's just click on these bar charts to give us a 2D column. Okay, so we have this 2D column chart, and it's pulling data from all over the place. That's why it looks wonky like this. But we do have some options to fix this. We'll click into our chart, right click on it, and click on select data. We don't want all of this right now. Let's just remove this. And then we'll come to add a series. So we want our first series to be flavors, and our series values. We want our values to be our units sold. So we'll highlight our units sold, click on OK, and we need to edit these axis labels. So our axis labels are actually going to be our flavors here. And then we'll click OK, and you can see there's our chart. So we have our chart here, and we can do different things with this. We can change up this to say, quantity sold per flavors, things like that. We can get rid of this legend down here. We can add things up here, our chart elements. We can take away our axes, put them back in. We can add axis titles, and there's a bunch of other different things that we can do in here. So that's kind of an introductory into the bar chart. So we can also do different things like change this chart up. Say instead of using a bar chart, we want a pie graph. So we're going to, I kind of ran through that. We're going to right click on this, go to change chart type, and then we can look at the other different types of charts that we have. There's really a lot here. So you can really play around with these and see which type of chart best suits your data. But for this, we're going to click on pie chart, and we can see that it shows us just an idea of what our chart will look like. But there's other different things. We can have a 3D chart, pie of a pie, different things like that. There's donut, but we'll go with our regular pie chart for now. And we can see that it shows us this chart, but we don't have any of our data in here. I mean, it's here, but it's not visually represented anywhere. So we'd have to come and click here, let's say add in our legends, or even add in our data labels. And this doesn't look quite right now, but just know that you can do different things to change up how your data is being called out. So see, as I'm hovering over different spots, it's showing me how it would look like a preview before I actually click on it. So just know that there are a lot of different things that you can do with this. I prefer to use pivot tables whenever I'm making charts, just because it's a whole lot easier because our data is already aggregated. But this is another way that you can use charts to your advantage. So like I showed you last time, well, just quickly how a pivot table would look with all of this. I'm going to highlight our chart, come to insert, and then I can click on recommended charts again, and again, like it just shows us our pivot table options with our chart. See how everything's already just summarized and ready for us, rather than the rest of this data is kind of doesn't make too much sense. But pivot tables definitely help with the aggregation of your data, and in consequence also helping you with creating your charts. So that's a quick rundown on Sparklines and charts, and a little bit on pivot tables, which, like I said, pivot tables will come actually in the next video. So we're going to be showing up how pivot tables work in the next video. So make sure that you like and subscribe to the video, because if you subscribe, then you do get notified whenever new videos drop. And I hope you learned a lot from this video. It was just a rundown pretty quickly about how charts and graphs and things like that work, but based off of the coffee example that I showed earlier, you can really see how something like this can develop into more of a dashboard and help you see the overall big picture of either your data or your business's data. But yeah, all right. Well, I hope y'all have a great rest of y'all day, and thanks for watching.